Kia ora everyone, Wairere Iti here with the 3MDI. Today we are discussing the Australasian World Music Expo in Melbourne, Australia. The Music Commission has just released that they are taking applications for the for delegates, and so and are providing funding for delegates to go across to this conference. We thought we'd have a quick discussion with two ladies that have both attended AWME over the last few years, and who I've had the privilege of attending with. On the line we have with us Cushla Aston from Aston Road, who represents Louis. Sorry, Cushla, his name just popped out of my head now that I'm online and broadcasting. You've got several artists, Louis Baker, you've got Steer, and you've also look after the Thomas Oliver Band. Also on the line with me as well is Emere Wano from Tihi Productions, who looks after Sounds Aotearoa, and does several other things, including. Are you still working with WOMEX, Emere?
Yeah, actually I've just picked up the role as the AD, Artistic Director for WOMED New Zealand, so I'll be shopping when I go to AWME, so to speak. Cool.
So thank you for joining me today. Again, this is going out to our 3MDI whānau who had some questions around this particular conference that's happening in Melbourne. So I guess the best place to start is I wanted to kind of give our members an understanding of the value of attending a conference like this. And Cushla, you've been to one or two now, and why is it that you decide to go to this particular conference?
Well, it was the first time I'd attended both WOMEX and AWME, and I had heard about both of the conferences over a period of years and was interested in them. Other managers had attended, like Bex Coe and Teresa Patterson, and I just saw it as an opportunity to extend my international networks and to understand more about how different territories work. And yeah, mostly it was regarding networking and understanding.
Cool. And so upon attending these, were you what were you kind of expecting when you went with regards to the types of programmers that were going, and what was the you obviously had an international strategy, wanting to get your artists across. Was there something you had in mind in terms of a strategy that you wanted to achieve, or types of things you wanted to achieve while you were there?
Yeah, if I'm completely honest, the situation for me was really about lack of knowledge, and that's what I was wanting to understand more. As you know, what WOMEX is it's world music predominantly, and world music. I think the category is quite broad now, where it used to be quite specific to sort of quite cultural, and now it is a much broader, a broader range of music that is picked up by these programmers. So for me, it was what I really wanted to do was go and talk to as many people and understand what festivals were booking, how they were booking, what they were looking at. There seems to be a certain way that bookers look. They have very specific ideas in mind what works for their festival, and so yeah, it was really mostly about educating myself about how everybody works and how my artists were going to be able to fit into that in terms of what I wanted to do strategically with them on an international level.
Cool. And I guess with this conference, we've got a bunch of, quite a few international buyers coming across to look at acts from the South Pacific, and they include traditional groups, both Aboriginal and Māori groups, who and content that's coming from both Australia and New Zealand. And like you say, with the world music genre kind of broadening its base a little bit more, so it's not strictly necessarily Indigenous music. I know that some of the acts that we've seen in the past and a lot also acts that have gone across from New Zealand, which might include bands like Sons of Zion and Catch a Fire, which are kind of more of a reggae sort of based groups, and but also along we've had Batukata Sound Machine and Scott Grafton, who's been over there quite since AWME started. So there is a really eclectic range of programmers that are coming across from Europe, and were you surprised at how broad the programmers were in terms of what they're programming?
Yeah, I was. What I will say, Emere is having showcased my artists at Sounds Aotearoa 3 years in a row. It actually gave me a really great basis for understanding what WOMAX and AWME was about, and how to interact with the programmers and understand what they were looking for. So I had thought none of my artists are, Indigenous performers as such. One plays soul music, the other one plays, they're both guitar-based singers, and another one plays MPC. And I had thought that would be a problem, that I wasn't going with an offering, a traditional offering. But what I found was that, the breadth of programmers that were there were not restrictive at all, and what they were looking for is unique product from a country.
Right.
They're looking for great acts. Yes, they are looking. Sorry.
Absolutely, I have to agree with you, Kush. The AWME is a roots and world music market. It's not just confined to traditional and Indigenous. They want to hear what is the sound coming out from this area, whatever that sound may be. So you shouldn't limit yourself, but it is good to go and have a look. I would recommend going to have a look before you apply. As an artist, send your manager, and maybe, if you're self-managed, go yourself and have a look first, so that you get to familiar with the environment and familiar with the people that are there, so you can start to do a bit of groundwork before you then embark upon selling an artist to that group of people, because it's all about relationships at the end of the day. It's about establishing some friends and some ambassadors for your artists and your music.
Yeah, I highly agree with that. The value for me, going and just meeting people and spending time investing and not trying to sell, but understanding what they were looking at and building those relationships, has been immense. Plus I learnt so much, and learnt about showcasing, and I have applied for my artist this year, and I have applied because I know what to do and what's going to give the artist the best opportunity for getting booked, and what I need to do to get booked. And that is now ensuring that if my artists get chosen, or an artist gets chosen to showcase, how we then best prepare. And that preparation is in doing your research about the delegates and what festivals they come from, and what festivals they run, and who they are programming, and ensuring that you've connected with them beforehand. Don't assume that because there's some massive festival that they're not going to open your email. I know I met one festival booker who books a stage that has 25,000 people, and this goes for every night for a week. He responded to every single email he received, and went and saw the acts. Because they had made the time to get in touch with him, he was making the time to go and see them. So, yeah, that's really important.
So I guess with, as you say, Cushla, you went across wanting to kind of get a better understanding of how this works. So let's say the first time you went across, it was purely on that basis of wanting to understand how it works. Were you expecting to get gigs, and what were your expectations at that first time through? I know having the first time I went across to AWME, it was just really just to kind of get a handle on how it all worked, and then from there, when I was booking for Graffiti Entertainment, it wasn't until 2 or 3 years later that I actually, a lot of those relationships had really started to lock in. Guys were answering my emails pretty much straight away because we'd had that connection so much more. And so I guess that first time across is really just around about just sort of getting your feet on the ground and starting to work how it works.
Yeah, because a lot of these programmers have been going to these things for years, right? And the sell hard thing doesn't work for them. It really doesn't. You know, it really is about building that relationship. You know, to be honest, I went away with full assets, and what I had ensured that I did, and I had got advice from Emere about whether I should be taking, you know, a pile of CDs and whether I should be doing this and whether I should be doing that. And really, at the end of the day, all I did was exchange business cards and make connections through email and just spend time with these people with no intention of selling. And I didn't want to sell. I just wanted to connect. And what happened in the end of that was I connected, and then they were asking me for my business card. They were asking me what I had, and that was much more value to me than being in somebody's face and trying to get them to buy something that, you know, they don't know who you are. You know, there's plenty of great acts out there, and also the other thing is I didn't want to sell last year because my acts weren't ready, and that's the other thing that I would highly recommend is, like, don't send your acts if they're not ready. Make sure that they are ready, make sure that you're ready, know what you're doing, know what your objectives are, and be really good, because there's a shed load of great acts out there, and you've got to stand above the rest of them to be noticed.
Well, that actually segues quite nicely into the preparation part of this, and I wanted to kind of touch. So, in terms of preparing for the conference, and Ems, you might have some thoughts about this as well. You know, what kind of preparation work should managers be doing before they go to the conference, just so that they're not hitting the ground cold and you know, walking up to people in that sense without those types of instructions. You know, maybe you can go into the type of preparation you did before going to AWME.
Sure. So, because I sit, you know, and I organise a conference here, which is a smaller scale, but it's based on the same premise that it's getting you prepared for those sorts of occasions when you're going to interface with international people. So I come from that side of preparation. One is do your homework. So who are the people that are going to be there? Who is it that you really want to meet or want to see? Which is why I recommend that you go the year before and you do all that scouting and all that preparation before you take an artist. You know, like what Cushla was saying, sometimes they're not ready, and it makes it easier if you're prepared beforehand by doing your homework, finding out who's going, what festivals are they from, and what do they program, and have they programmed. So if you do reggae, who's all the reggae bookers and programmers that are going to be there? If you do folk, who are all the folk festival bookers or venues or whatever that are going to be there? So have a good look at that listing before you even apply for AWME, you know, if that information is available, because it might not be the right place for you. There might be a different market, you know, because you're going to be pitting yourself against a whole lot of other people that are doing that homework and are trying to match themselves and their artists with that market. The other one is to, you know, talk to other people that have been before, which is, you know, Cushla and I had a big conversation before we both left for WOMEX, which is one of the biggest music markets, and we talked about the assets or collateral. And the worst thing is that artists have little money to spend or waste on putting together a whole lot of assets for programmers to chuck them in the rubbish. So be wise about the money that you're investing and the assets that you take with you. CDs, it's good to have CDs, but you can do what Cushla did, was take business cards with her web address on it and the details, so that buyers could go to her site and find the links about the artist that they wanted to look at. So, you know, then you could maybe post a CD if you really need a CD. I mean, we still get CDs, but what I've noticed is that there's been a decline in the CDs. I've just come back from a music expo in Borneo, brand new, 2 years running, and we got a very small amount of CDs this time around. Everybody was going to online, pushing us towards or directing us towards links, URL links, which is great.
I'll also just say I've just come back from Europe with one of my artists. We did some shows over there, and we took over a bunch of CDs and were giving them to people that we were meeting. The amount of people overseas that actually don't have CD players anymore is incredible. So ensure that your online assets and are ready to go Dropbox links with your albums, so that you can just quickly flick them something, or at least have something on a card that they can go and access the music.
Cool. I'd just like to take the opportunity to welcome Toni Huata, who's just joined the conversation. Kia ora, Toni. We appreciate you coming in. Now, the girls were just talking about the preparation required, sort of leading up to AWME and the types of things that we might be needing to do. Now, I know that with the you mentioned, Emere, sort of finding out, you know, where these delegates or the festival programmers are coming from. Now, I do believe that with AWME, the website does publish the delegates from the different countries, and so it is possible for you to see that. I've added a link to the AWME website in the notes of this particular YouTube video, so anyone watching this will be able to click on there and then just go through to the delegates. I've just got to plug my laptop in here so it doesn't drop out. So that's a really useful thing, and absolutely, like, doing your research, making sure that everything is, you know, that you've contacted these people, or at least research the people that you're wanting to connect with. It really helps focus your time, which is usually quite short, and being able to really connect and get the best out of the opportunity of being in front of these people. So Toni, you've also attended WOMEX and AWME, and I want to just touch right now on the sort of the format of AWME and sort of how it works. I know that with WOMEX, it's more of a stand, or you know, there's lots of country stands and that type of thing that happen at WOMEX. Can you just describe sort of how that works at WOMEX, and then we can come back to AWME just to kind of give a reference to how that might how they differ?
Well, WOMEX is more about the expo, and it's about doing the business, I think. And so, well, for me, last year it was a re-entry into that arena over at WOMEX there. I've been to some previous ones in the mid and early 2000s, and it's always been about working the stands and meeting people, and maybe doing your negotiations with those people, having meetings outside of that. I full on probably stuck to doing the stand or hanging out around the stand this year, whereas I think some of the other rest of the whānau were more into just the meetings and maybe the showcases as well, seeing a new acts. But for me, I pretty much just stuck to the expo part of it and met a lot of people through that way, attending the various you know, hui or drinks or whatever they had as well. And re-met some people that I had met previously. So again, it's all about relationships and about sort of like saying, here I am, and you know, continuing to be there to reconnect.
Sure. Okay. And look, Cushla, I know that you have to go do some important meetings very shortly. But just before you go, if you could perhaps just give us an understanding of how that differs. You've also been to WOMEX, but how the AWME conference differs from the more stand-based auditorium style that WOMEX is.
I just think that our AWME gives you it's much more personable. There's a lot more music going on as well, so you have an opportunity to move around and see a lot more acts, and consequently it makes it more personable and sociable in the interaction with the delegates. The conferences, yeah, there seems to be less focus on the conferences somehow, and more on the more so on the showcasing. No, that's pretty much what I found, and it's less expo or me. It's more educational, where WOMEX is, very much the trade stands.
Sure. So you've got with AWME, you've got the seminars. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
There's a lot of panel discussions which happened, and I guess, as you say, there's a really good social element, and being able to connect with programmers much more personally, both as they're coming out of the seminars, you can kind of capture people's time a little bit easier. The need for formal meetings, or the setup of formal meetings, is if you haven't got them, it is much easier to bump into people and get 5-10 minutes of their time to actually engage with them and present material, or even just to find out who they are and sort of how they like to do their programming, and even how they like to take the material. So that type of thing tends to be quite good.
What I found was that there was a huge amount of value of going to WOMEX first and then going to AWME, because I met a lot of the people that I've met at WOMEX, had met them again, so the relationships were established twofold. And I can't attend WOMEX this year, unfortunately. I would if I could, but I can't. But I will definitely be at AWME. I will not miss that.
Sure. And would you say that it's that AWME would be a good place to start? I mean, obviously it's going to be a lot cheaper because it's only in Australia. Is it a good way to sort of start and establish those? Could you do it from AWME through to WOMEX?
Absolutely. It's worth getting over there, and it's it is just across the ditch. It is a hell of a lot cheaper, and it's really worth going.
Cool.
Wise investment. And off the back of both WOMEX and AWME, I've secured, without going and selling, I've secured 3 bookings for 2 of my artists. So it's showed value.
Wow. Okay. So so the times that you have gone, you actually, things are starting to kind of come together in terms of the opportunities.
Totally. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Hey, look, Kush, I know you've got to go, so thanks so much for your time. We'll see you out there, and good luck. I know that you're going to Europe pretty soon again, and all the best.
Okay, thanks for having me. See you later.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so that's pretty much the format. So I guess with AWME, we've discussed in terms of the format, it's less trade show, and it is more around the seminars and the panel discussions, and also the showcases. Just Ems, I know that you put on the showcases, and how valuable are the showcases in terms of getting those, and how useful are they in terms of actually getting bookings? Can you go there without a showcase, or is it something that you should be spending a lot of money to get across to do?
I think as a buyer, as a programmer, we like to see live performances, because it's, this day and age with online links, there's people that are really savvy at producing them, and then there's others that are not. So the quality is variable on some of the links that you get. So being able to see an artist live is always the best way for us, well, for me, to be able to see how they perform on stage, but also the crowd response to their artist is really important. So Yeah, it's definitely worthwhile applying if you are ready, and you have to be ready because, you know, like those things I just explained, as a buyer or a programmer, I'm looking at the audience. I'm looking at how the audience responds to you as an artist. I'm looking at you as an artist on the stage and how you would fit and my audience respond to you as an artist. So that's why showcasing is really important.
Sure.
And I want to form a connection with you and your music. So, yeah.
So Toni, I mean, you're a performing artist yourself, and I guess just elaborating a little bit more on that connection that Emere talks about, and is there any advice around? Is there anything around those showcase performances that might differ? Let's say from a standard performance, are they structured in a slightly different way from what you can tell?
I think showcasing performances, it's all about showcasing your best. Whereas perhaps a normal show or a longer gig, like for instance with Emere Sounds, it might be within 10 minutes or within 20 minutes. So you've got to showcase your variety in that space of time, whereas you might normally have a 45-minute set or something like that to share your work, to share your stories. So in showcases you have to cut to the chase and you have to show your best and connect with your audience, and sometimes it's not easy to warm an audience straight away off the outset. You've got to draw them in first, then you've got to say this is who I am, and then you warm them up. And for me, I with my own showcases, I like to connect with my audience, and and just through doing the little tour that I'm doing at the moment, it's been teaching me a lot, even at this phase of performing. And sometimes some audiences will connect with you straight away, will be really hot and really warmed because there might have been other acts on prior to you, but if you're, say, starting a concert, it's your job to warm that audience. So yeah, so it varies, and it often varies wherever you are set in the overall program. And so you just got to work with your showcase accordingly. So it's important to know all of those things. It's important to know what time you're on, how long you've got, and what else is going on in the overall scheme of things. Say, for instance, within the likes of AWME or WOMEX. When I've been to WOMEX in the past, like this WOMEX last year, I didn't go to any of the showcases because we were all quite jet-lagged. And I had my children with me and my whānau with me and my in-laws with me, etc. So I didn't get to see the showcases of WOMEX last year. But in the previous WOMEXs, there's simultaneous, multitudes of shows going on all at once, and everyone's competing against each other, so they're all there to grab their audience. Whereas with AWME, the same thing's happening, and you just revolve around the various venues in Melbourne, because that's pretty much all I went to was the workshops and the showcases in AWME last year. And it is smaller scale. Yep, definitely agree with Krish that it's more social. It's more of a social thing, and it's more informal, perhaps. It's not as pushy, maybe, as say like the WOMEX can be. And so, but again, what Em's saying about the showcases, you've got to showcase your best, and within that short space of time, show that you can connect with an audience. So, which is different from doing a gig.
Sure. And Emere, I mean, as a buyer, what's the attention span of the standard buyer? They come in and they obviously, I know that with showcases, they more or less have 4 songs at the most. Most of the time you've got 3 or 4 songs to really capture them, and I've taken the time to study buyers as an animal group, and and how they kind of work inside the showcase, and I definitely see that when you see them at a showcase that captures them, they're all like those little meerkats, and they all kind of they all look at the same time, but as soon as you lose them, they're all I'm going to go to the bar and buy a drink, so there is that. The construction of your set and what's happening in a song even, I think, like you were saying, Toni, it's really important that you don't confine yourself to this is how the song is played, and so this is the way I'm going to do it. It really is about capturing that attention. And yeah, but I have noticed, and I don't know, Ems, if this is something you've noticed around the buyers in terms of their attention span and sort of how long you've got to actually capture them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Tony's made a good point. It's about what is your time, your showcase time that you've got. If you are a band that plays long intros and you've got 10 minutes, well, that's, you know, might not work. So you have to, that's all about doing that homework and that preparation. So if you've got, it doesn't matter how long you've got, it's what you do with that time that you've got. So if you've got a 10 or a 20-minute set, make that your best 20 minutes. But give us a mix too in that set so that you haven't got, say you've only got 10 minutes and that's like 3 or 4 songs. Don't give us 3 or 4 songs of the same style, you know, or the same beat. Try and mix that up, but mix it so it's got a nice flow to it, so it's not disjointed. It's almost like you're putting on a mini show, you know. You think, right, now's my chance. So I've got 10 minutes, I've got 20 minutes. Sometimes some things are beyond your control, like venue, and that's really tough on showcasing artists. A bar, which you know, traditionally is where a lot of showcasing happens, doesn't necessarily fit with your type of music or you as an artist, so it's really hard to get that connection. So you need to be prepared for that. And again, it's almost like saying, well, if that's what that market does, if that's how that market showcases, am I going to go there, or can I ask them if I can do a different setting or a different timing? You know, a bar at 4 o'clock in the afternoon is quite different to a bar at 8 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock at night. So if you know, those are sorts of things, but don't be afraid to ask, because you never know unless you ask. But if you are, say, a singer-songwriter that does ballads, or you're a traditional group and they're putting you on at 10 o'clock at night in a bar, it's not going to work. Absolutely. Doesn't matter how good you are. You know, it's those buyers' attention is going to be at the bar getting a glass of wine because it's 10 o'clock at night, your music, and that, you know, doesn't fit into that environment and that time frame. So I would suggest, about, without being pushy, just, you know, when you put in your application, you actually say quite clearly about what it is that you are and what sort of environment would suit you as a showcase artist. So if it's an afternoon slot, say that. If it's a small intimate venue, say that, you know, so that the programmer, they might not be able to do anything, but at least you've had that chance to be able to put that out there.
Sure. Well, and I just wanted to see how important it was to have the follow-up. I know that, you know, the bands that they play, and then you know, how important is it to have that person in the audience talking to the programmers at the same time? You know, there is potentially a lot of self-managed artists. I know in the 3MDI whānau there are a lot of artists that self-manage, and so you know, they get off stage and then they go straight to the hotel. In terms of that connection, you feel that the value actually of staying and really connecting with those people, if you haven't had an opportunity, and getting feedback on that showcase is quite important?
Yeah, I do. There's a couple of things though. That one, before you leave the stage, say that I'll be around if anyone wants to talk to me about the artist, and where you've got merch or where you've got people available, so that buyers know. Quite often what happens is people come off the stage and they disappear, and we don't know where they've gone, or, you know, they've moved on. They're glad it's over. They've gone to get a glass of wine or a drink themselves. So, you know, do that. The other thing is, if a buyer's really interested, they will find you. They will track you down. Sometimes the buyers, they like it, but they need to reflect on it and see, does that work, might not that work. And sometimes, you know, we have a chat amongst ourselves and we go, oh, you know, as buyers or programmers, about what did you think of that? And then I might not have actually understood a part of the performance, or what, you know, an instrument or something, and so we talk amongst ourselves. So sometimes, you know, approaching the group of buyers straight away isn't necessarily the best thing. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. It's just yeah, it depends on a number of things that, you know, I can't put my finger on, but
Sure,
yeah,
sure.
I think there's the other thing is, what's worse is when an artist or a manager chases you as a buyer, and you know you're in a group you might be sitting with another bunch of artists, and there's someone just hanging there wanting to talk to you, wanting to sell themselves. So this is the thing, you're there to promote yourself, but you're not there to sell. You know, for me, that's the way you have to look at it. It's about a relationship, building a relationship. So you don't have to come up to us and, you know, here's my CDs, here's my cards, did you like that? You know,
I have seen managers make the mistake of, are you going to book me? Are you going to book me now? You know, and that turning programmers off. You know, on what was probably, you know, a reasonably good opportunity, but it's just that pushiness which kind of crosses the line. So, look, I want to talk about the delegation now that we kind of move towards sort of the funding that's given by the New Zealand Music Commission for the delegate funding, and sort of talk about how the delegation works from New Zealand, and Emere and Toni, both of you have both gone across as funded delegates, but are there delegates there that haven't been funded? So they're from New Zealand, and how do they incorporate themselves into the delegation as a whole? Gary Fortune, who unfortunately couldn't be with us tonight, and who was the head of Outward Sound and the funding for the New Zealand Music Commission, he did want me to kind of highlight the fact that it is, you know, if anyone that comes from New Zealand is kind of folded into the delegation, and like you say, if there is inquiries that come from a performance and they don't have representation on the floor, that the New Zealand delegation kind of come together and talk all that and help them. You guys have both had that experience at either of those conferences?
Definitely. Because I sort of put myself on the, you know, around the stand quite a bit in WOMEX, that happened quite often, and to me it's all about supporting each other, and you know, I think it just depends on the overall individual on how they work, but you know, our New Zealand delegation tends to be supportive of one another, and if you want to know about this person, this is their manager, here's their card, because if you know, those of us were off having meetings or what have you, and they weren't there but their cards were there, then we could refer them to the right person and say, well, actually we're not the right person to speak about that, but this person is, but they're not here right now. And you know, and it's just general common sense and respect. And at the end of the day, everyone's unique and different. Māori music is different to other New Zealand music, let's say, in terms of maybe real Māori music is different. And but being generally supportive of each other is just the way to go. And I think it's a live and learn thing, you know, for an artist. Sometimes people just have to go over there and experience the vibe, you know, and just put themselves in it, and to experience what, you know, Emere is saying as a programmer, what they're looking for. But you know, have the advice obviously before going, because that's the way I've done it. It's just gone over and, you know, experienced it and learnt through literally being there. But yeah, no, Gary's really choice on looking after us as well, and you know, I take my hat off to Gary, especially with you know, everything that happened there. So with Gary.
And so you go.
Yeah, so I've been, like my first time to WOMEX was self-funded. I actually funded myself and Carla Van Zon, and we went over, this was when I was wanting to establish Sounds, 2 years before I established Sounds, and so, you know, it's an investment, so that's how you have to look at it. If you don't get funded, there's a whole lot of people putting in for that same, you know, opportunity to get support. So it must be difficult. You know, any funder, it's difficult to decide about who gets supported and who doesn't. I think it's not about the funding; it's about you and where you're at in terms of your your career or your artist's career. If you really need to be there, you will be there whether you get funding or not. So, but I think what you should do is plan, do your homework, say, yes, this is the market I want to go to, plan to go unsupported so that if you do get support, it's a bonus.
Yep, absolutely. Well, that's with regards to the funding. I work on the Music Commission board, and we do see quite a few applications come through, and it is about having a good plan and a good strategy, and like you say, as long as you've got you can show those things, and your international strategy and how you'd like to develop your artist internationally, these things always come across really well, and it makes it really easy for the board to be able to assess those applications. I know myself, I was the same as you, Emere, where the first year we went to AWME, we went completely self-funded as well as WOMEX, and through consecutive years, we've also had other managers come across self-funded, and being able to just help them, with their first time to any of these conferences, so that they can understand it quickly and kind of hit the ground running, and provide them with contacts and opportunities to meet with guys that we've now known for 3, 4, 5 years. And it's like, yep, this guy's got this, and so being able to help with that kind of networking and talk with those new managers and artists that are coming across is really good, and something that I am really proud of, the way that we represent ourselves at all of these conferences is the unity that all of the New Zealand artists and managers have, and I think now, having gone to these conferences in successive years, that's really starting to show in the types of relationships that New Zealand managers have with a lot of these international programmers now, where it is you can basically ring these guys because we've had that time, and they'll pick up all of our emails. So, hey, I just want to quickly give the whānau a bit of an idea on if you do want to showcase at AWME. I do understand that the showcase applications have closed. They closed in May. However, it is possible for you to go onto the AWME website. Again, I've added the link in the notes of this YouTube video, so you can click on that, and then they take showcase applications through Sonic Bids. So that's also, I'll also put that in the notes. I just want to move across, because we've got to wind up pretty soon, but I just want to move across to the actual funding applications. So Outward Sound, the international, or the export office of the New Zealand Music Commission, and they fund projects which go across, that are looking for international exposure. Their funding has changed slightly from previous years. We have another video on the 3MDI page where I actually speak to Gary Fortune around those changes. But there is a focus on certain conferences around the world, South by Southwest, sort of the mainstream ones, where they're trying to hit other markets, but they have focused on world music, which includes WOMEX and AWME. And so with that, the current funding announcement that's come out, which is around the sending a delegate or a manager across to attend AWME, and from memory, it's around 2,500, up to 2,500 to go across for that you can apply for, up to 2,500 for travel costs.
1,000 for AWME and 2,500 for WOMEX, I think.
Oh yes, okay. Thanks, Toni. Yeah, and so now, Toni, you've actually applied for that funding last year, didn't you? What, Toni? Did you apply for that funding last year?
Yes, and that's the first time I have, and it's also the first time I've received it. When I've gone previously, it was more off because I was either over in the region, but or you know, self-investing like you guys did, you know, into getting into that market. But yep, last year that was the first time I applied and first time I received it as well. Yeah.
Okay, and so this funding is really around the management. Sorry, Em, it's around funding a manager or an agent who might have a roster of artists. Because I know, Toni, with you've got Waahuu Creations, is that right? And you had a roster of artists that you were going across with to shop. And if you do get a showcase, and you've applied through to AWME and they do select you, you can apply for funding through the normal Outward Sound funding for funding to get your band across also and fund the band to play at the showcase, should you get selected by the AWME selectors. So that's roughly how that works. Now I have put a link in the notes also around with the announcement and also how to get the application for the delegate funding. So that's also in the notes here. So you can click on that. You contact the New Zealand Music Commission, Gary and Alan, who run the Outward Sound office there, and they'll send through an application form, which will allow you to start that application form, which I believe has gotten a lot. It's just much easier now after than previous years. So that's been edited.
Cool.
So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. I just wanted to say thanks. I'm not sure, was there anything else you guys wanted to add in terms of AWME and the attending there?
Well, I just want to say that it's anything like that is always an investment, and when you know your plan, you know where you're going, it's worthwhile investing into it, whether you're investing into it yourself or whether you're applying to NZ Music Commission. And with that, you're still investing because it's 50% that they will provide up to a certain amount. So I think it's definitely worthwhile. I mean, I'm heading back to kia ora, my girl. I'm heading back to AWME regardless, and
got the whole whānau there. That's good.
It's all about whānau.
You know, so I won't be heading. Yeah, Google, but back to AWME anyway. But you know, with WOMEX, unless you're in the region, it's a bit more of an investment because it's going usually over to Europe. So it's all worthwhile. And sometimes you can get geared with everything, but sometimes you just need to go and experience what it's like to really know what you're dealing with. Oi, Nikki.
Sure. Well, that's awesome. And Em, so just on parting, is there anything else you want to
thanks, Wai. It's been really good, and it's good opportunity to have a kōrero with you guys, but also share some info for our whānau and our artists and managers out there who are thinking about markets. One thing I will say is, having just been away a week ago with 25 international programmers, the big thing that they were talking about and we were talking about was what have you been doing in the territory as an artist is really important. If you haven't made a name for yourself at home, one in every blue moon gets noticed without having had done some stuff at home. But if you haven't done that preparation, you have to ask, am I ready for an international market? So, yeah, that's my parting words.
Hey, thank you so much for taking the time to impart this wonderful knowledge to everyone. Really appreciate it. To the 3MDI whānau, if you want, you can leave comments here or in the 3MDI page. And any feedback or questions that you have, we're happy to answer. Myself, Nina Kay, or Emere as well, who I know is quite active on the page. I'm sure Toni will be in there as well. So thanks again, guys, and kia ora koutou.
Kia ora. Mihi nui. Ka kite.